Slasher back at it again. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be here with me, and I appreciate it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, man. Hype me up, comment, let me know what y'all think. Without further ado, let's get right into work. Super Bowl 60 is here. Who do you got? My prediction. I want to know your prediction is too. You know, right before the Super Bowl, this is a good morning, good rising to everyone. So let me know what y'all think, man. Let's get this going. My prediction is the Seattle Seahawks winning 27, New England Patriots 20. I believe the game is going to be close. I think it's going to be tight all the way through. I think New England has a great team. I think they're primed and they're going to be here for a while. I don't think this is kind of a one-off. I don't think this is just going to be one time where you're going to see the New England Patriots and Mike Vrabel in the Super Bowl under his coaching regime. And I wouldn't be surprised to not see that we wouldn't see Seattle coming back in this type of situation. They got a young quarterback. They got a young coach. Sam Darnold is relatively young. I think he's about 27, 28, somewhere around there. Probably even a little bit younger than that. But either way, he's still, in terms of quarterback, in terms of the position, he's still relatively young. So he has a lot or a higher chance to see the Super Bowl again, potentially, in the way their team is constructed, very young, the way New England Patriots team is constructed, very young. The NFL is always wide open. I'm not saying back-to-back years, but it won't surprise me if you see either one of these teams back in the Super Bowl within the next 5 years. I wouldn't be surprised if I see either one of those teams back in the next 5 years, within the next 5 years. That being said, I wanted to give that, I wanted to kind of build both of these teams up to know that there's no hate or there's no animosity. I'm picking Seattle, the team that beat my Rams. I'm also looking at New England. I believe that they're going to have a lot more energy and a lot more ferocity in terms of the buildup of the game because of the Hall of Fame snubbing Bill Belichick, even though he's not part of the coaching. He's not there, but his legacy is there. Robert Kraft is there. He's still the owner. And to see both of those two, in addition to people are concerned about what they're going to do to Tom Brady in terms of when he's eligible to be voted, and a lot of anger, a lot of resentment towards the NFL, towards Roger Goodell, towards the whole thing that Bostonians have right now. That's a lot of energy. That's a lot of momentum that I just simply cannot ignore in terms of even making my pick to Seattle. First and foremost, I already had Seattle. I was picking Seattle or the Rams or the 49ers when all three of them made it to the playoffs. My estimation was one of those three teams are going to make it to the Super Bowl because I felt that they were that good. They all have really dynamic defenses. They got solid quarterbacks that are not going to necessarily make mistakes. You're going to have to force them into those making mistakes. They all had good running attacks with McCaffrey and Williams, and now you have Kenneth Walker. They're very eerily similar in terms of all three coaches are relatively young. I think they're all under 45, if I'm not mistaken. McVay is somewhere around 40, 41, 42. You have Shanahan that I think he might be pushing a little closer to 45. And then you have McDonald, who is 38, I believe, going into the Super Bowl. So they're all young. They all got, outside of Stafford. Stafford is the eldest. He's the eldest statesman in the league, and obviously in that division. But overall, these guys are all locked in. I just felt like when I was looking at the playoffs and the way they were constructed, the playoff picture in the NFC, in my estimation, the strongest division in the league was the NFC West. I felt like whoever was going to get into whichever one of those three teams are in the playoffs, I felt one of them was going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. That was my early prediction. Now, and obviously, I was picking my own team to get there because of that. But I wasn't surprised that the two teams that were going to meet in NFC Championship was that from the NFC West and being that representative. From the AFC side, it was a surprise for the Patriots to go amongst the ranks through the playoff tree like they did. Wasn't really that surprised that they beat the Broncos. I had the Broncos beating them in an upset, sort of. I was not expecting that blizzard. I don't think a whole lot of people was expecting that blizzard But I had them. I had Sean Payton figuring out a way to beat them with the backup quarterback. Obviously, I was incorrect. It was a close game, and shout out to New England. They won it fair and square, no controversy, none of that. And I believe in them. It's just that I just think Seattle is just a little bit stronger from both offense, defense, and special teams than that of the New England Patriots. But I would say this. Here's the caveat to what I have in terms of my prediction. I think that New England is going to try to slow this game down. Mike Vrabel is cut. He's a defense. He's a linebacker. He has that mentality. He's cut from that Bill Belichick tree. Mind you, he played with Belichick in New England as a New England Patriot linebacker. He was there in those early Super Bowls. He played against the greatest team on turf in the St. Louis at the time. The St. Louis Rams with Marshall Faulk, Kurt Warner, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt. That whole team was absolutely dynamic. And how they slowed down that Rams team, how they played ultra aggressive. They changed the rules, how Belichick was pressing their DBs against Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt and them. In the way they were changing rules because of that game and how it was considering them doing pass interferences and holdings and all of that. And they was getting away with a lot of contact. But that set the blueprint in terms of how to slow down those high-powered offenses when you're in the Super Bowl and taking advantage of those extra elongated timeouts, taking advantage of the halftime, how to slow the game down. Belichick is cut from that cloth. Mike Vrabel is also cut from that cloth. Belichick with Bill Parcells when he was the D coordinator for the Giants, and how the Giants, when they went against Buffalo Bills their first win in the Super Bowl, and how they slowed that high-powered offense down. And they just ran, and just kicked field goals and kept them off their rhythm. Mike Vrabel is going to do similar, I believe. He's going to go at it in that context, is keep Drake May in those third and shorts, convert third down, keep that defense fresh. We don't care if this is ugly, if it's going to be if it's left up to Mike Vrabel, this game will win 3-0 in the Super Bowl, and he'll be perfectly fine with it, right? That's what I believe their mentality is going to be, is just slow this game down. However, I think there's going to be times where Mike Vrabel is going to get a little aggressive. He proven that against Denver when he did that fake naked bootleg and went one-on-one with that linebacker, where Drake May went one-on-one with that linebacker from Denver, and he was able to get around him and get that crucial first down that sealed the game. So Mike Vrabel had that, I'm going to step out the box a little bit to get what I want to get. And so I see that coming for that Diggs, the receiver from Patriots, and Drake May doing something that's uncharacteristic on a third and short or a fourth and short. And they say, you know what? We're going to throw bombs away. We're going to do a fade. We're going to go up top and make something happen out of that. I can see something like that orchestrating with Mike Vrabel, where he'll just go right against outside the norm of what's been going on. So I think Seattle definitely need to pay attention to that. But with that, I still think ultimately Seattle's going to find a way to get out and get ahead. And I think that when they get ahead, they're going to stay ahead. And when that happens, they're going to rely heavily on Kenneth Walker III. That's who I believe is going to be the MVP of the game overall. Now, we know 90% of the time they're going to give it to the quarterback, whether he deserve it or not. If his stats is anywhere around the 270, 300 range, and he's got 2 or 3 TDs or 2 touchdowns, no interceptions or something like that, more often than not, they tend to go to the quarterback because it just sells better. And we already know it's politics that comes in everything. But it wouldn't surprise me if you look at the stat line and see Kenneth Walker, 27, 32 carries, 152, 162 yards, and a touchdown or 2 touchdowns. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him getting a heavy dose of him early and often, but I think in the second half of that game, the second half is where he's going to start really turning over some big time yardage, where New England is going to try to get a little bit more aggressive in their rush defense And I think that's going to cost them ultimately because it's hard to bring that man down. Kenneth Walker, I mean, he's strong, very strong when he's running. He don't lay down on the first tackle. Very deceptively shifty when he's in between the tackles and stuff like that. So I think that's going to be the problem. I think Sam Darnold is going to build off of that play action pass with and passing into JSN, and I think he's going to use his legs a lot. Drake May. Because of that, because I think Seattle's going to maintain that lead throughout the game, that pass rush is going to be heavy on Seattle going at Drake May, and I think it's going to cause some problems for Drake May and that offense. So ultimately, I think that's where the game is going to be won at and lost at. I think just that running attack from Seattle and that pass rush from Seattle is just going to cause some problems for New England in the later part of that game. But with that being said, who do you got? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the sections. Let me know the scores and predictions. Oh, let me also say this as a full disclaimer. I am in the entertainment business. This is not a gambling This is not a gambling video. If you are that type of person that's into losing, gaining, having money, find that video that's for that they're talking about in terms of lines and what's the odds and this and that. I'm not. This is purely entertainment. So don't come at me for you losing any type of money or you gaining any type of money. I don't want your money, and I don't want to have to owe you money. Okay. So this is pure entertainment. I have to put that caveat in there just so that we all have that full disclosure. But with that being said, who are you? What is your mission? I appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by. Until next time, until we meet again. Peace.